In this video, I'm going to give my Yu-Gi-Oh! October 2014 Banlist Predictions. First, we're going to discuss some of the possibilities. Then, at the end, I'll tell you my actual predictions for the ban list. Let's hop right in. So the state of the format right now is mostly Shaddoll, Satellar Knights, and Burning Abyss at the top tier. Hat and Lightsworn are, shuffling around somewhere. Girgia, Bujin, Madolche, not really too much. Infernity's randomly top, Mermails and Firefists have been crept out. So that's sort of the state of the meta. I'll go ahead and start and say that I don't think Nutella Knights or Shaddolls or Burning Abyss are going to get hit by the ban list. They're new. Konami won't aim for them. Sorry, I know people don't like them, but that's how it goes. I think that artifacts could get hit in some capacity. Sanctum to 1, or Morale Tech to 1, or Ignition to 1. I've heard different opinions on this. Personally, I think that Sanctum should be the one to go to 1 because if Sanctum's at 1, then you don't get to run the Sanctum Morale Tech suite, and Morale Tech becomes a lot harder to use when it's just alone. Sanctum's too much of a plus. You can use it multiple times in a turn. Cut your opponent's plays off. I think it's really good. So I think that if any should go to 1, that's the one that should. Next, I think the Trap Tricks may or may not get hit. Mermelio to 1 is a popular opinion. However, Hat hasn't been as dominant, so maybe this won't even get touched. Some people have said Bottomless banned. That's a bit extreme one, but it could happen because if Bottomless is banned, then Mermelio gets harder to use, so that's something. But the only problem is if Mermelio goes to 1, then the Trap Tricks deck itself becomes a lot harder to play, and that's not a lot of fun for people who actually like that archetype. But Mermelio to 1, maybe 2 is something that could happen. To tame Lightsworns, I say that Judgment Dragon could go to 1, Raiden could go to 1, or Eclipse Wyvern could go to 1. All of these would limit Lightsworn's capabilities. With JD at 1, running the Eclipse Wyverns and the Dragon Rollers becomes a lot less effective unless you run 3D Avalos, so that's not ideal. With Raiden to 1, it makes sense. The Raiden has too many good qualities in one card. It's a tuner, it's level 4, it's a Lightsworn name. It's like the new school card trooper, and it's just a lot of good stuff in one card. And they got other tuners anyway, like Felice and the other Minerva. And Eclipse Wyvern could go, and it could go to 1, and without that, then you don't get the Dragon Roller part, which makes the deck a lot less powerful and just turns it into regular Lightsworns again, which are much easier to handle. I think that Mathematician or Armageddon Knight could go to 1, maybe even both. I think both is extreme, but let's keep every option on the table. I believe that if you put Armageddon Knight to 1, then people will just exclusively run Mathematician. If you put Mathematician to 1, the same goes. So maybe putting both to 1 is what needs to happen. I think putting them to 2 isn't radical enough, or probably wouldn't get much done. So I think that Infernities may or may not get a bit of a nerf. Hitting Archfiend or Necromancer neuters the archetype, so maybe just something like Stygian Street Patrol would be a good pick. And if you put Armageddon Knight to 1, then maybe that's enough of a soft hit to Infernities to more or less get the job done. I mean, they'll be forced to run Greffer, but that's not quite as ideal. And Mathematician is not the level they want it to be. So I think that the only deck that's old that still might need a hit is Bujin. Yamato's too central to the deck to get hit, but Crane is the possibility that a lot of people like to say. So maybe Crane to 1. I've heard Bujin Carnation, but I don't really agree with that because most of the time they only run 1 or 2 anyway. So Crane to 1 seems like the only likely hit, if anything. I think the 2 Floodgate cards will get hit: Kaiser Coliseum and Vanity's Emptiness. Either or both could go to 1. Both put a real stopper to Pendulum Summons, which is something that Konami will likely want to promote coming up. And also, they're both very annoying Floodgate cards. Konami's done a good job of getting rid of a lot of the Floodgate cards, like the Macro, the Defissure, the Soul Drains, the Eradicator, just all the cards just shut out decks. So I think that they probably won't want to see Vanity's Emptiness and Kaiser Coliseum so prevalent moving forward. I think that Call of the Haunted could possibly go to 1 or 2. Probably 1. There are a lot of decks that can get a lot of heavy plussing from Call of the Haunted, and with that in mind, I think that it's something that could maybe go to 1. I don't think it's the biggest need. I don't think it's a drastic change, but let's leave all the options on the table, right? As for cards that I think could come back or move around in the ban list, I think that Mole, Gale, cards like that could all come to 2 or something. A lot of these cards just aren't really a problem anymore. I mean, Mole is just another out to Winda and Construct. Gale going to 2 wouldn't push Blackwings into the top tier. It would just be a slight help for them, and I mean, no one would, I really don't even think people would run it still, which is a shame. I also think that Inzektor Hornet could come back to 2 or 3, because at this point Inzektors can't play. Rhapsody and Berserk just murders them, and there's nothing that they can do once their 1 Hornet's gone. 3 Hornets, 1 Hornet. Once a Hornet's in the grave, it's the same as having 3 Hornets in the grave. So I think that, you know, 3 Hornets for Inzektors would be nice. A little bit more consistency for them. I think a Rescue Rabbit could come back to 2. I mean, you know, help the normal decks out. And at this point, honestly, Evo Diversity makes Evols the better way to run like Yandolka. So Dino Rabbit, I don't think would be like enough of a threat to really take, you know, the meta by storm. And since we're discussing Inzektors and Dino Rabbit, let's go ahead and talk about windups. I think the Zen Mighty could come to 1. I don't think it would really change much. Windups are just another Xyz deck. There are decks that go into rank 3, 4, and 5 much better than they do now, Burning Abyss and Nutella Knights. So Zen Mighty to 1, I don't think it would really make a huge difference. I think it would just be a nice little help for windups. And the cards that I didn't mention on this list were hands. I think that hands were a problem at first, but now people are adapting. D-Prison's really popular. Abyss Dweller, Armides, Black Ship. It's easier to deal with the hands, they're becoming less prevalent, so I don't think that they'll need to get hit. I didn't choose to hit Supply Squad. I don't think it's a problem card. I see it only being used in mostly lower tier decks, and it's an easy MST target. I don't think it's that big of a threat. Soul Charge is not broken anymore. It probably never really was broken to begin with and might have just been overhyped, but I don't think it's going to get hit. Most people are only running like 1 or 2 in most decks, and my philosophy on Soul Charge is if your opponent's winning, then Soul Charge usually isn't actually going to save you. So don't think Soul Charge will really get hit. And I don't think the Dragon Rollers will get hit. I think Konami's reached a point where they just want them to stay in the game and just be at 1. They're not in any of the major decks right now. And sadly, with them here, cards like Ravine likely can't come back, but that's just how Konami seems to want it to be. And so, since you've reached the end of this video, I will give you my actual predictions for what will happen on this ban list. And my predictions are that very, very little will even happen on this ban list. If the past is any indication, I would say that Konami has sort of reached the point where they have more of a figure it out yourself mindset to the game. Instead of just sweeping broken stuff under the rug, it seems like they're really just more concerned with introducing new archetypes that creep things out without the ban list's help. And you know, also it kind of feels like Konami is just letting us deal with the problems. Hands were a problem at first, and now we've adapted. And you know, Hat was a big deal at first, but now it's just sort of fading. Light Sworns, people thought they were broken when Dragon Sworns came out, and now no one's really complaining about it as much. And you know, it feels like Konami will do stuff if it's radically needed, like, but I don't really think that they're a huge fan of anymore of like changing the ban list a lot. The last ban list the last few have been very, very minimal, you know, just a few cards kind of moving around. Goyo came back and it's not doing anything. So I don't really think that this ban list will be very drastic. I think that the only cards that I would really expect to see hit would be Vanity's Emptiness and Kaiser Coliseum, and then maybe some of the stuff from Hat, because it's the deck that Konami didn't really anticipate being top tier. But everything else will probably stay just as it is, and that's okay because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually fairly balanced right now. And when you consider that Shaddolls and Nutella Knights and Burning Abyss aren't going anywhere, because they have more support coming, it means that this ban list likely will not be very exciting. So those are my opinions. Thanks for sticking with me. In the comments, please feel free to disagree with me or agree with me and justify everything you say. Just don't troll. Be respectful. This isn't like politics or religion. It's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Alright, well that concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure you check out all the deck profiles that I've been providing. In the last week I got like pretty much every major deck profile from Dueling Alliance. So check all of them out, and I hope you guys continue to watch. I hope you guys subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. Follow me on social networks, the links are in the description. And I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.